for me, mindfulness has inbuilt to it both friendliness, befriending, which I think is, in my opinion, a better word for loving kindness, a better translation, in fact, from if you want to make the link to the Pali and the Sanskrit, befriending is a better way of terming that. And I think compassion is the way in which the mind turns towards suffering. So the whole movement of the mind in mindfulness of turning towards suffering and looking to alleviate that suffering is part of the whole movement of mind and the movement of mindfulness. That befriending is a key attitude within mindfulness, and compassion is a movement of mindfulness towards suffering, be that my own suffering or somebody else's suffering. I know there are people doing really interesting work with compassion and befriending as something in its own right. So I think it's a both and. I think a really good mindfulness teacher teaches that in an embodied and an implicit way. I think you can, of course, also teach it explicitly. Now, with vulnerable groups, I think that's something you then have to do with great skill. And the people who work in this area know that. People like Krista Neff, Paul Gilbert know that. Because if you introduce kindness practices, compassion practices to people who have an incredibly well-developed inner critic, you get what Christopher Gomer and Krista Neff have described as backdraft. So that's the idea of, if there was in this room a bit of fire and you open that door, the oxygen rushes in and the fire and that's what can happen with people, an incredibly well-developed inner critic. So I think the implicit teaching is really important, and then education around backdraft, knowing about backdraft and really supporting people in that work of working with their inner critic is really crucial as well. We have done research to suggest that the development of compassion in people with recurrent depression is one of the crucial ingredients of change. Being able to meet those negative thoughts, those negative feelings with compassion is a crucial way of meeting difficulty and working with it. Winston Churchill had this wonderful metaphor of the black dog. He called his depression his black dog. But when he described it as his friend, his black dog, like embracing the black dog, living with his black dog. And Matthew Johnson, an Australian writer and cartoonist, has actually written a book called Living with the Black Dog, which is a series of cartoons about befriending, turning towards being with his black dog.